in Palm to discuss some of the information that MORAD has compiled over the last few years. This information has been extremely beneficial to my progress as a performer on the PGA Tour, and I certainly hope that the time I spend today will inform you of some of the changes that have been incorporated in the framework of my golf swing over these last 24 months. Today's date is September the 10th, 1986. It's a beautiful day here in Palm Springs. Behind me is the lovely San Jacinto Mountains, and I certainly hope that this tape will be as refreshing to you as this lovely day of life is to me. Okay, let's begin now. There are three major frameworks to discuss this MORAD information. The first one I will discuss briefly here will be in relation to motor set, various principles that are associated to events that take place throughout the golf swing, and as the brain codes itself to control the various movements of limbs and joints and movements of the body throughout the address position, top of the swing, and certainly down to the downswing and into the finish. Secondly, I would like to discuss the elements of radius locks, various radius locks that are associated to controlling joint movement. Certainly joints move because of muscle contractions, and I will take the time to discuss their relationships throughout the golf swing to control the radius of the club head and its path up the plane, back up to the plane as the player goes into his finish. The third element I'm going to discuss is the 10 section in which the club shaft will go in its orbit around the body, up the plane, down the plane, and around the axis once the centrifugal force sets into it. The 10 sections are quite beneficial to be able to break the golf swing down into its various stages so that you have a better feel and understanding of how these multiple complexities of the golf swing and how they eventuate throughout the golf swing. So let's begin first in discussing the motor set. The first part of motor set I would like to discuss deals with the axis tilt. Now, in the golf swing, it's called the dual axis tilt. There are two axis tilts. One is that as the player sets up at address, in his address position, as he's bent at the waist for, depending on the individual, maybe 20 to 25 degrees, his tilt of his axis, which is going to rotate around the body, is tilted somewhere around 20 degrees. That's the first axis tilt we're going to discuss in motor set. And when you're dealing with motor set, you're basically establishing your framework, the foundation of the body, setting up at address to be able to control the movements of the arms, club head, and certainly the trajectory and path of the hands as they go up and down around the body. Motor set is nothing more than establishing what your intentions are, what you intend to do with ball flight behavior and the various changes or things you must concentrate on. Okay, so we discussed briefly the elements of the first axis tilt and how the individual is bent at the waist. And the second axis tilt will take place in stage number 5 of the downswing when the left arm is parallel to the ground. Coming down to stage 6, this is where from the upper torso, the waist bend must be tilted anywhere from 10 to 15 degrees to allow the right shoulder to continue in its path to go down to stage 6, down to stage 7. And the second axis tilt is going to control the path of the right shoulder as you go over to stage 8, which will allow the upper part of the body to stay tilted to the right. Because you are going to lose your first axis tilt, this postural alignment that you have at address when you go from section 1 to 2, section 3 here, section 4 to the top. Then when you come down to section 5 with the left arm is parallel to the ground, then down to section 6. This is when the second axis tilt will really start to be quite prevalent and show up in your alignments. This way you're going to be able to control the path of the right shoulder, because you're still bent at the waist here as you come from stage 5 down to stage 6. And you're going to be able to, here's where centrifugal force takes over, and you've got to be able to have the right shoulder downward. As you go to stage 7, you're still bent at the waist, but as you go 6 down to 7, you're still bent at the waist. The left leg will clear, and then here's your axis tilt, second axis tilt of the right shoulder in this direction to be able to control the plane of the left shoulder to the right shoulder. Basically what you're trying to do there with the second axis tilt is put the right shoulder the same spot the left shoulder is up here at stage 4 at the top of the swing. Okay? At this point, right here at the top of the swing, be able to move the right shoulder in the exact same position. If you come out of your second axis tilt, the whole plane and orbit of the hands and the arms, as they come up and down the plane from stage 7, which is impact, to stage 8, where the club shaft is parallel to the ground, right here. You're going to allow the shoulders to move and oscillate on the same plane if you make sure you maintain your first axis tilt going up the plane. But when you come down to stage 7, you've got to make sure this axis tilt has already been completed so that you can keep the right shoulder moving through the shot and back up the plane again. Okay? When centrifugal force sets in on the club at stage 6 down here, 6, and throws the club to 7 to 8, the direction in which it's going to be thrown at is going to be controlled by this axis. If you come up out of the shot, the tension right here is that centrifugal force will be throwing the club in the wrong direction. Okay, that's axis tilt. Second part of motor set we're going to discuss here is your radius locks. Now your radius locks are very, very, very important. There are 7 to 8 of the radius locks. I believe there's 8 of them. And these radius locks will control the various movements of the limbs and the joints of the body in sequence so that you can fulfill your intention. First of all is your alignments. And alignments basically is the trajectory of the hands to keep them going at stage 1, up the plane, at stage 2, to stage 3, to stage 4, back down to stage 5, down to stage 6, down to stage 7, down to stage 8, up to stage 9, and down to stage 10. Okay? The radius locks are extremely, extremely, extremely important, because in order for you to fulfill your desired intention, these radius locks must be maintained at various stages throughout the swing. And certainly your understanding as well is when do you lose some of these radius locks. We will discuss that later. Okay, after we complete the discussion of radius locks, we're going to go now to the importance. It's called the fixation of left foot alignment. The left foot is, once you set up at address, there's 3 positions in which you can fixate your left foot. You can have your left foot at right angles to the plane line or the target line. You can have your left foot at a 20-degree relationship opened up, or you can have it in a relationship of 45 degrees. Now, the left foot fixation of that alignment is extremely crucial that you come to understand its relationships, because the degree in which you set the left foot, whether it's at right angles or position 20 degrees or 45 degrees, will not only control the trajectory and flight of the golf ball, but it also controls the relationship of how much the hip girdles slide, as well as the axis tilt at the top of the swing. The left foot does not control specifically the amount of the axis tilt, the second axis tilt, how much you tilt to the right. It controls how much the hip girdles will slide on the downswing. If your left foot is at position number 1 at motor set, the left hip, when you come down, the right shoulder will come down, the hip girdles will slide the full maximum range, where the outside of the left hip now is way outside the left foot. From this view, you will see I will come down with my right shoulder, okay? I will come down to stage 6 with my left foot in position number 1. As I come on down, the left hip girdle will slide all the way over outside the left foot. rotate to the left, and you see how much axis tilt I have. Now, for a long shot, let's say from a 6-iron, 5-iron, 4-iron, all the way to a driver, you don't want to have that foot in that position. If you're going to be hitting your wedges, your high irons, basically you want your left foot in position number 1. I will like to further discuss that if your left foot is set in a 20-degree position, once you go to the top of your swing and you come down to stage number 6, go into stage number 7, okay? Once you go to 7, the left foot is at 20 degrees rotated outward. You'll be able to rotate more freer down the line. And you see that I just have a moderate axis tilt, maybe 10 to 15 degrees. But if I have the left foot at right angles to the target line, when I come through the ball like this, you see how much I'm tilted? And to be hitting drivers all the way to a 6-iron, through 6-iron, it makes it very difficult to control the plane of the club shaft as centrifugal force throws it out. The reasoning is that the farther the club shaft gets away from you, the more centrifugal force wants to throw the club out. So therefore, you want to have a full rotation through the shot. When you go to hit a wedge shot, the club is moving more on a vertical plane, more downward. So therefore, you can have your left foot at right angles, and as the hips slide, the club will be coming more on a more upright plane down through impact. Sandwich, pitching wedge, 9-iron, 8-iron. It seems that the left foot in position number 1 at the fixation of left foot alignment is the position that one may want to use. So, if I may reiterate again that the left foot alignment will determine how much the hip girdles will slide on the downswing. And how much the hip girdles slide on the downswing as they slide downward is going to determine how much the arms and hands will become more in a vertical plane. If the left foot is rotated out into position number 2, which is about 20 to 25 degrees here, then the hip girdles will slightly slide to bring the club from stage 4 down to stage 6, the slight axis tilt. Then you can rotate more down the line. There's more of a rotation forward down the line, from 6 to 7 and forward, okay, if the left foot is turned out. Now, if you put your left foot in position number 3, 45 degrees, then your range of motion is severely restricted as far as having your hips slide on the backswing. It's almost impossible to do that. When the left foot is in position number 3 at 45 degrees, this is where Hogan and Trevino basically over the years have put their foot in that position. This left foot will, at the very top of the swing, you'll find that my left knee is coming, actually moving, left of the golf ball. So your center of gravity field is more oriented towards the left side. As you take the club up to section 4, down to 6, and going to 7, the tendency with the left foot is out is to really have the massive rotation through the ball. One of my experiments in working with the variations of this left foot position, I have learned that in position number 3, it's very easy for me to control the flight of the ball, to move the ball very low to the ground. Since April of 1979, when I first started to learn elements of Homer Kelly's book, The Golfing Machine, this 7 years of development, I have learned that probably one of the most significant things I've come to understand is the importance of that left foot and its relationship to other various joints of the body. So that discusses shortly a little bit of the importance of the left foot position. In summary, I will say, one, the left foot position not only controls trajectory will affect the trajectory of the shoulders and the hands and the hips, but they also will control the trajectory and path of the golf ball as it ascends upward into the golfing heaven. Also, the left foot fixation alignment will control the various degrees of how much the hips will slide and the axis tilt. Okay, Excuse me for a moment here, I'm a little thirsty. I'm going to get a little bit of water. Be right back. Toast to the good life. Better golfing days ahead. Okay, so that was discussion, a little bit of radius locks. Let's go down to the left foot fixation and its alignments as one sets up to the ball. Let's go to motor set number 4 here, which is going to discuss the importance of rotation throughout the golf swing. Now, one of the important aspects of rotation is that once you set up at the address position in section number 1, you're basically aware of coding the entire network and circuit in the brain that's going to control the movements of muscles and contractions of muscles and stretching of ligaments in order for joints to move, and then their relationships and throughout the various sections and maintain radius locks. Basically, you're basically controlling everything through rotation. You don't feel that as you're in your posture that you're moving to a position, holding a position. You're aware of various stages to which various alignments must be maintained, but you're basically moving immediately up the plane, down the plane, all the way up through to the very finish. One of the reasons why you want to fixate on rotation is that because of the larger muscles, the proximal muscles, and their sophisticated circuitry to be able to take intentional acts from the brain, the cerebellum, to send messages out for muscles to move. The larger muscles move much quicker, they're much faster, and they're much stronger than those muscles known as the distal muscles and distal joints, which are 3 times weaker and they move 3 times slower. So basically at the address position you want to be able to fixate on rotation going up the plane and down the plane all the way through. And one of the reasons why you want the rotation to be involved, because the next step of motor set is called the no release. You want to keep rotating to be able to hold off the release until the very last incident down here at section 6 when centrifugal force takes over. So when we will discuss shortly the importance of no release, you've got to come to understand what you are doing each one of these stages and how rotation affects the various motor sets of the radius locks, the axis tilt, and then when centrifugal force takes over. Okay, let's begin now to discuss the no release in the golf swing. Now, what does that mean? Set up in the address position. Once you go from section 1 address, going up to section 2, where the hands are outside the right foot and the club shaft is parallel to the ground. If there is a small miniature release, this is when you're going to feel it. When you're setting up at address, and immediately as the right elbow bends and the hands rotate and they cock upward into section number 1, here's your rotation set it in immediately going up the plane. Okay? Now, there is a small little release coming up here to section number 2. Then all distal rotation of the hands as they move 90 degrees to section number 2, and the cocking of the left wrist in anatomical terms is called radial deviation. That this position here is being held, and so there is a small release up here to section number 2. You don't want to be taking the club back on a more elongated arc and then flipping the club inward onto the plane. You want to be able to feel that the club is released upward immediately on the takeaway. So there's a feeling of a little bit of a small release and cocking of the right and left wrist up to section number 2. Okay, now again, what does no release mean? Our discussion in motor set of no release is once you've gone to section 4 at the top and you're coming down to section 5, down to section 6, is you're trying to rotate forward until the club shaft gets parallel to the plane, so that plane line, that's when centrifugal force sets over, and it's going to throw the club on its orbit around the axis of the body. Set it here at section 6, go going through section 7, centrifugal force throws us on a 180-degree arc forward down the plane, and the club shaft should be parallel to your heel stance line right here. Okay. You at the top of the swing, we know that is section number 4. Section number 4. We want to be able to go from section 4 at the top of the swing down to section number 5. The left arm is parallel to the ground. Keep rotating down to section number 6, trying to hold off the release. You got to keep your body moving so that you can move the club to stage number 6. That's what centrifugal force will throw the club down to 7 and rotate all the way around. There's no throwing of the club. There's no conscious rotation of the hands turning over. Basically what you're doing is you're just trying to keep rotating until you get down to the very, very bottom. Then centrifugal force will throw the club very quickly, okay? Faster than the actual rotation of the body from stage 6 past all the way to stage number 8. So it goes 6, 7, 8. You're going to keep rotating, holding off the release so that you can keep rotating all the way down to stage 6 where your hands are between your left and right foot. Centrifugal force sets in at stage 7 and rotates it all the way around to stage number 8. From this view, going down from stage 6, okay, club is thrown out to stage number 7, and it's thrown forward over to stage number 8. Okay, the importance of this no release, I cannot begin to tell you of its influential role. You don't want to be releasing a club head or the hand. When you are set up at address, the hands are set where they're a little bit in a cock position, a radial deviation, and pretty much that position is held at the address position, going from stages 2 to 3 to 4, down to 5, down to 6. Now, my photographs have shown me going from stage 4 down to stage 5, and the club shaft is still at about 135 degrees angle. This is 90, this is straight line, this is 90 degrees, 135 degrees here, so that once you get down to stage 5, basically you're at about 135 degrees, the alignment of the left wrist and the club shaft with the driver. But then as you come down to stage 6, then it's back to the neutral position where it's level again. Here you have maximum cock, radial deviation. Stage number 5 in the downswing, you have it both the left wrist under here and the left top of the hand are just pretty neutral or just a little bit cocked. This way there's a metacarpophalangeal-collateral ligament on the bottom of the left wrist that is being taunted and held in position to prevent the left wrist from uncocking this way. So you go from stage 5 down to stage 6 where the wrist is pretty level now. From here, stage 6, when centrifugal force takes in, you want to try to keep the left wrist still in a little bit of a cock position so that the club goes more forward, and as the left wrist stays cocked, the hands move around the body, around the axis. If you lose if the left wrist becomes too uncocked and have ulnar deviation, which is a left wrist uncocking towards the ulnar bone, then you're going to get the hands rotating, the hands will be turning over too much, and the hands will be thrown away from the body, opposed to staying very close going up to section number 8, to stage 7, to stage number 8. Okay? The last thing is under motor set, I will review one more time about no release. In summary here, in conclusion of no release, basically you're doing this from sandwich all the way to a driver, where that you are going up to stage number 4, coming down to stage number 6, holding on, okay, and the club is released. On top, down to stage 6, the club is released all the way, going all the way up to stage 9, back down to 10. I'm going from stage 4, down to 5, down to 6, centrifugal force throws it. All I'm doing is rotating the club shaft, bingo, and I have the dual axis tilt, the second axis tilt. got to understand the axis tilt must be maintained to be able to control. Once centrifugal force sets in down here at stage 6, if you don't have the axis tilt, you just keep rotating like this, centrifugal force will throw the club outward, and it causes a great deal of complexities to start to set in, and the brain will start to exercise its adjustment systems of making compensations through other various parts of the body, of the anatomy. Okay, the last point here of motor set is to discuss Newton's centrifugal force. When does centrifugal force enter into the golf swing, and what role does it play on moving this club shaft into a designated orbit away from the axis of the body? Okay? When you're dealing with Newtonian force, time and space, it's a very, very, very important element in the development of the golf swing, of understanding what role centrifugal force plays. The movie Star Wars said, "Let the force be with you." Well, for a golfer, you've got to learn to be in compliance to this ubiquitous force field that is part of this Earth and controls the planets, etc., and its orbit around the sun. So the relationship of centrifugal force, as anytime you are moving not in a straight line, but as you're moving on an arc, there's going to be some degree of centrifugal force. The longer the club shaft gets away from you, the more the club's going to be moving on an arc, so therefore the stronger the pull of centrifugal force is going to be. That's why earlier I discussed the fixation of the left foot alignment. As the left foot is opened up into the golf swing, it allows you to move more freer, more forward and down the line with a better rotation with a slight axis tilt. And you'll be able to generate a faster throwout action of centrifugal force, because the plane angle where a driver is getting farther and farther away from you. When we go to discuss a wedge plane angle, the wedge is moving more in a more upright plane. If you have the vertical wall of the target line or the plane line, and the club head here, you'll see that the distance in which the club head travels top of the plane for a wedge outward to the plane line is a very short distance. So therefore the throwout action of centrifugal force is going to be very minimal. That's one of the reasons why you basically at motor set number 3 in establishing the left foot fixation and its alignment, whatever position you're in, you want your left foot to be more or less at right angles to the target line, so that the plane angle of the wedge comes more down the plane, so therefore you want a little bit more of a sliding action to be able to have the path of the club to come more underneath the ball. Okay, so this relationship of centrifugal force, it will set in down here at the bottom at section number 6 when the hands are between the left and right foot, going from the top, going through sections 5, going down through section 6. This is why you want to just keep rotating down to section 6. Bingo, centrifugal force throws it. 6, down here to 7 very quickly. You want to keep rotating forward over to stage 8 with the axis tilt. Okay? You're at the section 4, rotating down to section 5. Here comes the hip girdle sliding because of the right shoulder moving down. The degree of how much the hip girdles will slide is determined by the left foot. If I have the left foot out at 45 degrees, as I come all the way down, my body moves forward much more readily, much more quicker. It seems that the longer the radius is, the longer the club shaft is, the more the left foot's got to be turned out. I have found that if I'm just going to hit the flight of a ball with my driver and I want the ball to land and run 10 to 20 yards, I'm going to have my left foot in position about alignment number 2, 20 degrees of the left foot alignment at the address position. So now the question is why do I want my foot in position number 2 where it's opened up to the left, so that I have a better rotation through the ball? One more point I'd like to share with you is that, excuse me, Mr. B, is that if you have a very upright plane angle to the top, where the left arm is not going right across the shoulder line, if you have it where it's very upright, if you have your left foot rotated outward like this, and it's very upright, the problem you're going to run into is that because the left foot is going to allow the rotation of the body to set in much more faster, the arm is going to be thrown away from the body more and more around the body. And it's going to be very hard to slide downward like this with the hip girdle here with the left foot rotated out. Now those players you'll find that hit the ball very high, a very upright golf swing, they will have their left foot at right angles to the target line. Because as the arms are very high away from the body, they've got to slide themselves downward to have the slide, this neurological clutch set in here, to slide forward to get the arms back here down on the plane in gear again, so then their rotation sets in. It's a very complex movement. You cannot be you cannot generate a lot of club hit speed. If you do generate a lot of club hit speed and have such a high plane angle, and your left foot is at right angles, you're going to run some severe complications because the hip girdle cannot be coordinated with the upper torso and the lower torso to be able to time it to move the club up and down the plane and forward with any kind of real serious accuracy. It's very, very, very difficult. So in discussing the centrifugal force relationship again, in conclusion, it will set in down here at stage 6. Once you get to stage 6, you'll go out to stage 7. Once you get down to stage 7, you got to make sure that you have the second axis tilt to be able to keep the shoulder rotating on the proper plane, controlling this movement around the axis, going to stage number 8. Okay, those are some of the points of the motor set. Next, we will take a moment here to discuss the various radius locks. And let's talk about the TED section first, then we'll discuss radius locks. I'm going to have another toast here, if you don't mind, and think of food life. Okay. Part of one's development of the growing and learning and understanding these complex networks that do take place in the golf swing. This next stage of understanding the TED sections, I think, will be extremely beneficial for you to know how the golf swing is broken down into various sections, so that you have a better feel of what I've been trying to do with the MORAD information to eliminate the waste of the golf swing and increase the productivity. I believe MORAD has been quite successful in that, and I feel quite beneficial to have been the guinea pig of learning this information. Okay. Okay, let's go. Let's discuss the 10 sections. The first of the 10 sections is the address position. Basically, at the address position, section number 1, now here you are, we just discussed motor set. You must have it incorporated within your understanding of your comprehensive framework of understanding how these things work. Motor set, now setting up the 10 sections. When you set up an address, position number 1, you're aware of, again, where is your left foot alignment? Is it 45 degrees, is it 20 degrees, or is it right angles? You'll know that if it's 45 degrees, what kind of ball flight you're going to have and what other restrictions it's going to have on your joints, hip girdles, shoulders, etc., etc. Position number 2, its flight, how the ball will go off in more of a lower trajectory. What I like to play with is with my 6-5, 4-3, 2-1, 3-wood and a driver. You put it at right angles again, you know what kind of effect it has on hip girdles, slide, shoulder rotation, hand plane location, its trajectory, everything. So once you set up an address, you've got to determine, again, whatever your intention is of what kind of ball flight you want, and what, not only the flight of the ball, but the trajectory and path in which it's going to fly from the address and impact all the way to the end result where the green is located, or the fairway. So again, address position, you're aware of where your left foot is fixated. You're aware of your axis tilt, its relationships. You're aware of the radius locks. We'll discuss this lastly. You're aware of the left foot alignment. Now you're aware of the rotation going up from section 1 to section number 4 at the top. coming all the way down to section 7, all the way up to section 9, then to 10. You're aware of the rotation now. You're also aware now at the address position that you don't want to have a release on the downswing. Centrifugal force will release the club forward. You don't want to consciously try to throw it or fling it or push it or pull it forward. Just let centrifugal force do that for you. It'll throw it in a more consistent orbit and a more consistent alignment from stages 6 down to 7 up to stage 8. Again, motor set tells us that at the address position you got to be aware of Newton's centrifugal force, how you can deliver the club down here at stage number 6 where your hands are just above your kneecap. You don't want to be coming down to stage number 6 way up here where the club shaft is so parallel, because centrifugal force will throw it from right here outward. Okay, we don't want to do that. So you have to know what stage centrifugal force is going to take over, and then the question is the amount of centrifugal force. And that's going to be determined of how much rotation you have in the downswing opposed to how much slide you have in the downswing. You don't want to have that much of a centrifugal force throwout action when you are dealing with your wedges moving on a very upright plane. That's why you want your left foot rotated inward so that you can rotate down, the hip girdles will slide, allow you to come under the ball this way. Okay, so these things are all must be coded in your circuits to understand what you're going to do at the address position. Okay? Before that club even starts to go up the plane. So section 1 is an address. I have a 4-iron here, so therefore I'm going to have my left foot in about a 20 degrees alignment, opened upward. My weight is going to be distributed a little bit towards the left side, in between my center of gravity here and my left foot, right in the middle of that position. Another point I forgot to mention was that the right foot must always be webbed out 4 to 5 degrees. You have your left foot hitting this forearm for me is rotated 20 degrees. The right foot is always braced 4 or 5 degrees open, so that it will help you to brace the right foot. If the right foot is turned inward, it's very easy for the right hip girdle to slide, and too many complexities take place when that happens. Okay, so if we go back to the address position, you want your weight slightly centered to the left of your center of gravity. Okay, if I'm going to hit this golf ball, I'm going to have the weight not in the center here, but slightly a little bit more to the left here at the address position. Okay. Okay. And the reason why is so that when I go from section 1 up to section 2, where the club shaft is parallel to the ground, my hands are outside my right foot. As my shoulders turn, my center of gravity weight is going to move a little bit towards the middle now. And so that on the downswing, once I go from section 4 down to 5, and my hip girdles start to slide, it moves the center of my weight back towards the left side again, inside the left heel. Okay, so that I can come to that point, have the hip girdles there, maintain the second axis tilt, then bingo, rotate around that point. Okay, that's section number 1. Nothing is moving yet, but you're aware the moment that club goes back of all the relationships that are going to start taking place once you go to section 2. Okay, section number 2 is in a position where you go from section 1 up to 2, the hands are outside the right foot. Now what moves this club shaft from this position and address to this 90-degree position here in section number 2? The right elbow contracts, the hands rotate immediately. They rotate 90 degrees with the hands cocking or radial deviation. Okay? They begin its path of the club releasing upward and starting to cock. Okay, the hands are just outside the right foot. At section number 2, the shoulders have turned about 8 to 10 degrees. And once you go from section number 2 up to section 3, all rotation of distal joints have been turned off. The rotation of the hands, it rotates because the elbow is bending. You don't want to move your hands independently, like this, on the backswing. You don't want to be going this way. As the right elbow bends, the right elbow moves in the trajectory around the rib cage, and it stays as it rotates around the rib cage here. You've got to be aware the right elbow stays very close to the body as it goes up and down the plane. Okay, so going from section 1 up to section 2, the hands outside the right foot, the right elbow contracted first, the hands rotate and cock, and simultaneously you've got to be aware up in your neck and your shoulders, the trapezius muscles in the back around the neck here, they are turning the spine, they're rotating around the axis, and you've got to make sure that you have right elbow bent and the hands rotating. Then also you're going to have to start the rotation of the hips and the shoulders together, right? All the way down to the feet. So simultaneously you have contraction of the right elbow, you have the flexion of the right elbow, you have the hands rotating, the hands cocking, as well as the shoulders rotating 5 to 10 degrees. The hips will rotate 5 to 7 degrees, and the knees will rotate from the address 5 to 7 degrees as well. Okay, going to section 2. Once you're at section 2 and you're going up to section number 3, the shoulders will have turned almost 80 to 85 degrees. The knees have turned the full range of 20 degrees. The hips have turned almost 45 degrees. And again, once I go to section 2, the hand rotation, the cocking is already set in. There's no more rotation of the hands. Everything is going from section 1 to 2 up to section 3 where the left arm is parallel to the ground. Once the left arm is parallel to the ground, I'm aware of how much these joints of my knees and my hips, my lower torso and upper torso have rotated. I'm aware of section number 3 here at the top, that I go from the top all the way up to section number 4, and from section 3 up to 4, see the path of the right elbow and the flexion of the right elbow? It's the only basic joint that you're aware of that continuously, one of the joints that you must be aware of, that going from section 3 up to section number 4. You've got to be aware that once you get to section 3, that's your right elbow, because the shoulders just turn 10 more degrees going up to section number 4, and it's held right there. Then the right elbow keeps flexing, keeps flexing, keeps flexing, keeps flexing, keeps flexing until the club shaft is parallel to the ground and the left arm is going right across the shoulder line. Okay? So even from this plane, I'm setting up at section 1, section 2, going up to 3, going up to 4. You're aware of the right elbow and what the right elbow is doing. Okay? Okay? Section 3 to section 4. Here's section 3 again. Okay, now we're going up to section 4. Now what happens in section 4? You have top of the swing, club shaft's parallel to the ground. You have the trajectory of the right elbow. It started at address and went up around, like the moon around our Earth. It's on a certain elliptical orbit. You don't get the right elbow flying away from the body. If you do that, that means the humerus going from the left elbow to the shoulder starts to lift upward. The scapular joint in the back of the shoulder, it starts to go upward, and you start to lose your axis tilt moving up in this direction. And then you have to make a compensation of downswing. We don't want to do that. It's too complex, too complicated. Okay, so here we are again at stage 4 at the top. Now, what do you have to code? What can you be aware of? And what can you monitor from stages 4 down to stage 7, which is impact? I have come to learn that from section 4, I'm basically aware of my right shoulder at the top of the swing. My right shoulder is not going to move perfectly at the top of the swing. It's not going to move perfectly vertical in this direction. Okay? Once I go to section 4, then down to section 5, you see how the shoulder is moving outward now, but it's also moving downward. Okay? It's not just moving straight outward this direction at the top of the swing, and it's not moving straight in this direction, straight vertical. It's going to move about 80% down into this path, this orbit, so that as the right shoulder moves, you're aware of the right shoulder moving downward. That's what's going to cause the hip girdle to slide. But now the range of how much the hip girdle slides is determined by the left foot, how much you have it out or how much you have it at right angles. If you have it at right angles, the right shoulder, as it moves down in this path, 80% down, 15% out, down to stage number 6 down here at the bottom, you're going to find out what kind of range you have in these hips. going to be determined by the left foot and also the right shoulder. If the right shoulder goes straight outward, then you don't have an axis tilt and you're rotating around the body this way, okay? And we don't want to be going from stage 4 down to 5. You're already past 5. You didn't even go to stage 5. Or try to get down to stage 6. You've got to have the axis tilt. Okay, so the right shoulder is going to determine how much axis tilt you have coming out of the downswing once you get down to stage number 5. When you get down to stage number 5, the shoulders have turned about 20 degrees, still 20 to 25 degrees turn at stage number 5, where the left arm is parallel to the ground. Club still points at the plane line right here at section number 5, same as section number 3. Still points at the plane line. Section number 5 coming down here at the bottom, right? Alright, coming down to section 5. Okay, you're aware of the plane of the right shoulder as it moves down. Okay, Johnny Miller has a tendency to go right shoulder moves absolutely almost vertical to the ground. Makes the right hip girdles fly. The left foot starts to come off the ground because it has nowhere else to go. It's a very complicated move that as you get older and you lose your timing, because those cells do get older, it's much more harder to coordinate all these complexities, this complex network together in concert. Okay, so we're here at stage 5 now. Club shaft's parallel, left arm parallel to the ground. Club shaft points to plane line. We're coming down to stage 6 because when you go from stage 4 down to stage 6, it's so quickly as far as milliseconds is concerned. So this is why you want the larger muscles to coordinate the movements, because it's a little bit outside or a little bit too inside, then the hips and the knees and everybody else working in concert together, these larger muscles that work much more faster, they've got to coordinate the movements or compensation in order to fulfill your intention, whatever ball flight you choose to set up at the address position, that motor set. So again, we're at section number 4, 5 in the downswing. We're going down to section number 6. Now look at the right elbow, going from section 4 as it goes down to 5, all the way to 4, down to 5. It's the right elbow that's going to control now the plane of the club head as it moves from section 4 down to 5, down to 6. Okay? The right elbow, as it starts to straighten out and uncock and it gets down to stage 5, then that's when your rotation must move forward down at stage 5 to keep the club moving right down to stage 6. The right elbow will help you from stage 4 just down to about stage 5 as it straightens out. Then it's very hard to keep everything moving in this direction. See the joint come out of its socket? You don't want to do that. So the right elbow is beneficial from stage 4 right down to stage 5. Then you've got to keep rotating. Now the shoulders are going to have to start moving more forward. Okay? At stage 5, as the club comes down to stage 6, look how the shoulders are starting to square up. And as you get down to stage 6, the bottom here, and centrifugal force starts to throw the club forward, that's when you've got to have the second axis tilt. As the club starts to move forward, then you've got to start moving your body. You have to start moving your body rapidly from stage 6 to stage 7 to be able to coordinate yourself with the pull throw out of centrifugal force. So that's why you have to keep rotating in motor set number 4 coming down. Keep rotating so that you can hold off the release until you get down here to stage number 6. Okay? Got to keep rotating because that's what's going to move the club down to stage 5. Right elbow goes from stage 4, moves the club down the plane to stage 5. Then as you get down to 6, this is why you got to keep rotating to move the club forward up the plane. Over to stage number 8. Okay, so as we go from stage 5 here, okay, now we're going down to stage 6. When you go from 5 to stage 6, you've got to make sure you got the axis tilt number 2 tilted to the right now, because that's what's going to control keep the right shoulder on the same trajectory down into impact up into the finish, right? So that you're not coming out of this second axis tilt. Coming down here to stage 7, over to stage 8. You don't want to be doing this because this starts changing the vestibular ocular response of the eye muscles, ocular motor muscles, and the vestibular semicircular canals in the ear that monitor balance. They're all going to be altered and all going to be changed, and they're going to start making compensation for you. Also, it's difficult to maintain the image of the golf ball in the center of the eye when you come down and the head starts flapping around, moving this way or moving down into this direction. That's why one of the radius locks is the head-neck radius lock, so that you don't want the head to be flapping around. Okay, so we're back here at 5, going down to 6. Centrifugal force is ready to set in at stage number 6 here. When you go from stage 6, going down to stage 7, you're aware that you want this left radius and the left wrist maintained. Okay, stage 6, going to stage 7, you keep the rotation going. Once you get to stage 7, bingo, then you're going rotating straight left. Okay, there's certain cells in the spinal column defined as CPG, central pattern generators, that control the movement of the lower extremities, the lower torso, in its path to move straight left here. And that's basically the part of the spinal column that's in charge of the controlling this kind of movement, moving left up the plane angle. So you want to be able to be aware at stage, what happens at stage 6, what joints are doing what, going down to stage 7. Now, when you go to stage 6, going to stage 7, centrifugal force goes at 7. At stage 7 down here, you're aware of the left radius lock in the left knee, okay, starts to straighten out. As the left leg straightens out, coming through here, stage 6, going through stage 7, left leg straightens out to be able to free the left hip. You don't want to be turning the left hip out of the way because you lose all your upper torso alignment. You want to have your left kneecap straightening out. It seems to emanate from the kneecap. It goes left, it rotates, then it frees the hip to coordinate itself with good movement between lower torso, upper torso. If the hip turns too fast right away, it seems to sabotage all movement. So, once you're at stage 6, you're going to stage 7. Now you're losing the radius block in your left knee, which frees the left hip to keep the club moving forward down the plane angle. Okay? As the left knee straightens out, left hip clears at section number between stage 6 down to 6, 7. You've got to be aware of when impact's going to take place, so you can clear this left leg, clear the left hip. Then you're going to change the radius lock in your right kneecap as well as your ankle. Okay, right ankle's going to come off. We'll discuss that in the next point of when we discuss the radius lock. Okay, so stage 6 at the bottom, to stage 7. When you get to stage 7, you're going to lose the radius lock, in your left knee, your left hip, also your waist bend here. You're going to lose the first axis tilt that you set up at address with. You're going to come into impact, bingo, you're going to start coming out of the shot. You're going to come out of it, but you're going to keep your axis tilt to the right. You don't want to be coming up and out of it up this direction, because now you're going to change your head and neck radius lock. The inner ears, you have to try to make the compensation, and it makes it very complicated. So, once you get down to stage 6, you're going through stage 7, which is impact. Boom, bingo, you rotate over to stage 8, where the club shaft is parallel to the ground here. Once it gets to stage 8, club comes up to the top, up and over. But when you're here at stage number 7, you're aware of the recocking of the left wrist again. The wrist have to recock and come upward. You don't have to sit and go like this. You just have to be aware of, as centrifugal force throws the club, is you've got to let your wrist start to recock the club head this way. Okay? Once you get to stage 8, the arms are straight, the wrists are recocking. As the wrist recocks, okay, or all the radial deviation coming up here, the weight gets lighter now. You see this? Here it's at the maximum weight, and it's very hard to slow the club head down. You must train yourself to recock the club, and as it recocks, then it slows down the right shoulder movement. Okay? It begins to slow it down. Once you get over to stage 8, then you have both elbows cocking and bringing the club straight vertically up and over. Okay? And that's what slows down the right shoulder. To keep the shoulder in the same inclination you had at address, rotate up to the top, top of the swing, come all the way back down to stage 8 and have the right shoulder in the exact same position. Okay? So here's section 7, you lose the left knee, come up to section number 8, bingo, section number 9, then back forward to section number 10 with axis tilt number 2 maintained throughout the entire duration. From sections 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 to 10, throughout the full range, you've got to know from sections 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you've got to maintain that second axis tilt. It would look like this, going up to the top. Okay. I'll hit a ball right here. Okay. Watch me maintain the axis tilt. Okay. Axis tilt is maintained, a little bit right, tilted down to the right here. I'm just aware of motor set going from section, once I get to section number 4, going down to section 6, see how the left wrist hasn't moved outward yet? It moves outward at the very bottom when Centrifugal force throws it here. Then it comes straight up and over. Okay? Okay? Top. Okay? So, got to keep that axis tilt from section 1 at address, 2, 3, 4, down to 5, axis tilt going down to 6. Now you're at stage 7, the axis tilt, going to stage 8, straight up over to stage 9, okay? Then stage 10. Okay? Section 2, 3, 4, down to 5, down to 6, centrifugal force sets in, goes to 7, radial deviation, left leg straightens out, left hip clears, my radius here is lost, my axis tilt, my original axis tilt, coming down to the bottom here, it's lost, the other axis tilt sets in, I keep the rotation of the body, I keep it rotated to the left, up to stage 8, bingo. When I finish, back on down again. I'm going to hit a ball from this position here for you. Okay? I'm monitoring my rotation up. Right through the ball again. Okay? And one of the elements to control very good balance is to be able to go up, back on down to impact, right on through, maintain the second axis tilt, not coming up this way. Now I see you change your hip girdle slide. Bingo, right here. Okay, the 10 sections there we just discussed. Hold on a moment here. I'm going to see how much tape we have left. Okay, we're doing all right. Let's see. This is a 5-iron left-handed, and I'm going to hit 2 or 3 shots for you left-handed, where again we're going to monitor the relationship of the various sections again, where I'm going to section 1, 2, okay, section number 3, the right arm's parallel to the ground, section number 4, down to section 5, down to section number 6, here, centrifugal force sets in at section 7, go into section 8, up to section 9, down to section 10. In this view, you have section 2, up to 3, up to 4, down to 5, down to 6, down to 7, going over to 8, going up to 9, back down to 10. Okay? Okay? Where my right foot position, I got a 5-iron in my hands here. Take the club up. Okay? Very simple rotation. Soft little 5-iron here. Okay? Motor set up. try one more. Okay, those are the basic 10 sections. I hope they've been beneficial. I'm going to pour myself a little glass of water and take a rest here for about 25 seconds. And then we'll go into the radius ones. Okay? Okay, I want to do two things here. I want to check, I'm going to have you observe me take two practice swings with the driver and then two practice swings with the left-handed driver. Again, here I am setting up at address, and I'm aware of my rotation, going through the various sections, 1, 2, up to 3, up to 4, down to 5.